Welcome everyone to the latest coffee break webinar by RIB CostX. My name is Francesca Nottingham and I am a costex consultant in RIB software. As you can see on screen, this month's topic will be importing workbooks. So within costex you can import documents from Microsoft Excel. There is a number of different ways in which you can do this. So in this video we're going to be looking at how to import in all the various ways, demonstrating the benefit of costex being compatible with your documents, any that you may have already produced or received from elsewhere. For those of you who don't know what costex is, or for those who have never used it, costex is a fully integrated measuring and estimating solution with universal applications, supporting everything from hand-drawn sketches to PDFs, DWGs, all the way through to 3D models, BIM files, and everything in between. As we can see from this matrix, RIB CostX is available in a variety of licenses, ranging from offering all functionality to a fairly limited option depending on your estimating requirements. Delving deeper into each functionality, let's look at the components, breaking down how each of them are cohesive with one another, bringing you an all-in-one service. You have your takeoff options to start with, whether you're using 3D BIM or 2D drawings. costex provides accurate data, enabling you to utilise this data within your workbook. So our workbooks are just like Excel spreadsheets, but they are our own version. They still have the ability to use formulas and functions, making them very easy to navigate and use. We then have revisions tracking. Now this offers an accurate method of comparing a previous version with a new one, giving you multiple ways to highlight, identify and quantify any changes, meaning you're always up to date with the latest cost implications. Once you've completed your estimate, you then have the opportunity to produce a report. Now we offer various standard report templates for you to use. Alternatively, you can customise your own report, producing a professional quality output. Don't forget to check out our previous webinar, where we discuss use of zones. You can find this via the link on screen or by visiting our RIB CostX YouTube channel, where we upload our coffee break webinars, and you can also subscribe so you can get notified of the latest videos and kept up to date with the newest features and how-to videos. So, this month's webinar, as previously mentioned, we will be demonstrating how to import workbooks. Firstly, let's talk about the reasons in which you would want to do this. It may be the case that you're new to costex and have previously been using Excel, and now you're wishing to pull that information across so you can now work on it within the software. It might actually be that you are working with external bodies who do not have costex and present you with a spreadsheet that you wish to work on in costex, so you need to import it to be able to do that. Now, how many different ways can it be imported? There are multiple, namely we're going to be looking at 3 today. You just have to make sure that your Excel is prepared in a certain way to make this successful. Is it as simple as clicking a button? Not quite. I'm afraid it's not just the case of clicking a button and importing, but there is a very simple process that you need to go through, which we'll take you through in this video. So important things to note: you don't need to save your Excel file to CSV format in order to do this. Those of you who are seasoned costex users will know that there are some cases where you are adding to your system administration and importing documents that way to your libraries. In that case, they do need to be in CSV format, but in this case it just needs to be Excel format, just as standard. As mentioned previously, your Excel spreadsheet needs to be prepared in a certain way in order to make this successful. We will go through that throughout the webinar. And finally, you can actually preview the workbook before you commit to importing. So you're not having to sort of go back and forth and try and make things work. You can just preview it and then edit things if you need to before it's actually imported into costex. So let's take a look at how to import workbooks. So, as mentioned in the slides, there are multiple ways in which we can import a workbook to costex. 3 ways we will look at in this video are, firstly, to import by structure. So this means that your Excel spreadsheet needs to be organised in a certain layout for costex to understand the structure in which you want your information imported. Let's take a look at the Excel spreadsheet we're going to be importing information from and how it is laid out. So this is a bill of quantities. It has a summary page which is fed information from all these separate tabs down here. So you can see the idea of the layout of the Excel spreadsheet. It's pretty simple and probably something you come across day to day in your estimating or quantity surveying profession. So you cannot actually import this file into CostX if it is open in another application. So we need to close this down. And then what we can do is start to add it into our building here. So let's go to our Workbooks tab. And then we're going to go to our add button. So this add button has two halves. The top half will simply just add in a workbook. The bottom half is a drop down menu. So we're going to go into this one. And now what we want to do is select the last option here. So import a workbook from Excel. Now we're going to select the Excel spreadsheet that we wish to import. So this first one is import based on structure. So this is the one I'm going to select. Now this new window pops up, and this is essentially where you put in the information and tell CostX what it is exactly that you want to bring across to your new workbook. So you can name this whatever you want to name it. I'm going to leave the name as the same. It will always automatically just pick up the name that's in your file explorer, but by all means change it and it won't actually change anything in your file explorer. You've got a notes column here, so this field is again automatically populated to show the file path in which you got this Excel spreadsheet from. To be honest, you don't need that in there. I'm going to delete that, but you can keep it in there, or alternatively you can edit it and add your own notes. Now, CostX has already read this Excel spreadsheet. It knows all the different tabs. So as we scroll down, we can see all the different tabs that I showed you earlier. It has picked these up as well as the summary. So something important to note here is that CostX will always generate its own summary. So we don't actually need to pull that bit of information across, but we do need to select all the other tabs because obviously we want the data from there pulled across to our workbook. So what we can do is right click on one of these tick boxes and we can say select all, and then what I'm going to do is deselect the summary because, as I just said, CostX will automatically generate a summary on level 1 itself. So I can scroll down and see that all my other tabs are selected, and I'm confident in what's being pulled across. Now, a couple of other things that we need to adjust here. So we need to make sure that CostX knows which column the description is coming from. So ours is column B, because column A is the code column. And we've got blank rows here. So you do actually have the option to import them, or you can skip them, or you can combine cells between blank rows. I'm going to leave mine as import blank rows just to maintain the structure that it has. And now what we want to do is come down to this section here. So this will allow you to change any parameters on each of the levels. So I liked the way that my Excel spreadsheet was structured. So it was, as we saw, classic bill of quantities, summary page with all the other tabs. So I'm simply going to tell CostX to use worksheet tabs as its way, or as its structure for when it brings it across. Now, as I mentioned in the slides earlier, you can preview your workbook before it actually gets committed into becoming one. So I'm literally just going to press this button preview here. And now within the same window, it's come up with all of this information showing me exactly how it's going to look on my workbook. So I've got levels, so it's telling me which information is going to be on which level. Obviously, level 1 is going to be my headers because that's what my summary was in the Excel spreadsheet, and then level 2 is going to go down to a bit more detail. Now, what I need to do is actually assign these columns to what this information is. So what I mean by that is if I right click on one of these columns, I've now got the opportunity to put a corresponding heading on that column to what that information is. So for example, I'm going to need to put the quantity on this one. If I right click on here, I'm going to put the unit. If I right click on here, I'm going to put the rate. Now you could right click on here and select total or subtotal, but CostX will do that for you because once again, if you are a seasoned CostX user, then you will know that each workbook, when it's added, automatically has the subtotal and total columns in there. That's obviously a note if you are brand new to CostX and still figuring things out. That is how the setup is when you first add your workbook in. So you can leave this one as skipped because CostX will automatically sort it itself. So once you're happy with all of this, if you weren't happy, you could go back to your import settings and adjust anything you want to, and then you can check your preview again. I'm happy with this, so now I'm going to press import. Okay, so now that's imported, I've now got it in my workbook manager over here. It's imported everything I wanted it to, so it's got the summary page here with all of my headings. It's also got the total information, and because this text is blue, we know that we can go down a level into this. So let's go into our demolition, for example, and it's pulled across the subheading as well as the items, as well as the quantities and the rates, creating its own subtotal and grand total as well. So it's done that for each of the tabs that we saw in our bill of quantities, and it's pulled over everything I wanted. So although it's not just a quick one-click solution, that was a very simple process to go through and very easy to bring across your bill of quantities from an Excel spreadsheet into a workbook. Now, the second way we are going to import our workbook or another workbook is to do so by formatting. So instead of CostX understanding the layout and the structure of the Excel spreadsheet, it's actually going to pay attention to the formatting within the spreadsheet and allowing you to select certain items, match them, and bring them across in an identical fashion. Now, let's take a look at the spreadsheet that we're actually going to be bringing across. So let's open that up. So as you can see, we've only got one tab this time, and it's got exactly the same information, just on one tab rather than a summary and multiple tabs. So if I scroll down, we can see that we've got all of our different sections, and these are outlined via the heading, which is in capitals and it's in bold, and then you've got the subheading, which is underlined, and then the items themselves, which have no formatting. So what we're going to be doing is bringing this across to CostX and telling it to pick up the same formatting or match the formatting, so that we've got essentially exactly the same thing from Excel into CostX. So once again, we cannot import this if it's still open in another application, so I'm going to close this. And what we're going to do is exactly the same as we did before. So I'm going to go to my trusty add button here, and I'm going to select the drop down half, so the bottom half, and once again go to the bottom and say import workbook from Excel. Now this time I'm going to select the second one because that is obviously the spreadsheet that I just showed you, so let's select this one. And once again, this window has now opened. Now you can change the name again, you can alter the notes. I'm going to get rid of these. And now what we need to do is just tell CostX which tabs to bring over. So there's only one, so of course that's already selected, and it will always give the name of the tab as well. Now what we want to do is just make sure that the import control column is left blank. We want to make sure that the description column is B like it was before. And then we want this one to actually skip the blank rows. Now we go down to this level here, and before we selected use worksheet tabs because we wanted it to form the same structure as the Excel spreadsheet, but this time we want it to actually match the formatting. So by grabbing the information from the formatting, it can then bring across the headings and the subheadings, and it knows the layout of the spreadsheet. So I'm going to tick this box. As I did that, all of these radio buttons became available for me to select. And what I want to do is select at level 1 that I would like bold to be highlighted. And I would also like the capital letters, because if you remember on my spreadsheet, all of my big headings were in capital letters and they were bold. Now what we're going to look at is level 2. So this will be at level 1. So I've got my big headings with the capital letters and the bold formatting. When I go to level 2, I would like it to match from the formatting, but this time I would like it to grab the information that is underlined, so those subheadings that I showed you earlier. Now we don't need to go into level 3 because any of the other information that doesn't fall into these categories will just automatically be pushed down to level 3. So let's take a look at the preview and see exactly what I mean by matching the formatting. So let's go to preview. So hopefully you can see here that on level 1, we've got the heading there, so in capitals, and then we've got level 2, which is what was underlined, and then level 3 are the items beneath. So same again for your groundworks there, you've got level 1 with the big heading, level 2 with the underlined information, and level 3 with the information underneath that. And ultimately this follows the same sequence all the way down. Now, once again, we just need to change our columns to what we would like them to be corresponding to. So this one, for example, I'm going to want that one to be A, so the code. I'm going to change this one to quantity. So once again, I'm just right-clicking over my column there and selecting which column header I would like. I'm going to leave this one blank once again. And once I'm happy with all of this information, I'm simply just going to press import. And then it will bring across that bill of quantities that we had all on one sheet, which I've now managed to put into separate layers. So I've got my big headings here, so my capitals and bold. If I go down level, it's put some information behind the subheading. So I've got my subheading there that's underlined. I can go down again, and then on level 3, I've now got my items. So it's followed a similar structure to before, but I've just defined it using the formatting rather than actually using the structure of the spreadsheet. So yet again, very simple. You just need to make sure that you are using the appropriate method of importing depending on the type of spreadsheet you had. So before we had a spreadsheet with multiple tabs, and we brought that across. We had, secondly, a spreadsheet that was just one tab, but we've managed to actually create a multi-level workbook from that spreadsheet. So there is a third way to import your information, so we'll have a look at that. So this time we're going to be looking at importing from a control column. So what I mean by a control column is a column in the Excel spreadsheet, which is used to indicate which workbook level each item should be imported to. So the import control column can be used to exclude specific rows from being imported. Acceptable values for the import control column are 1 to 10 and X. So let's go into our Excel spreadsheet, which allows us to use a control column in order to import. So we've yet again got our bill of quantities, but this time it's also just got one tab and all of the information is on this sheet. This time we've got a couple of new columns here. So we've got H, I and J being used for our code column, so our trade, element and ICMS codes. And then we've got column K. Now this is the important one because this is the one that we've dedicated to being our control column. So as I said a moment ago, I said about the X values and the other numerical values, so 1 to 10, which is how costex brings across the information. It knows which item to put on which level because of the way that we've numerically coded it. So for example, this cell here has obviously got the number 1 in it, and that means it's going to go into level 1 of our workbook. Subsequently, this will go into level 2 and these two will go into level 3. And what we've done is actually populated all of these against each of the items to let costex know what level to put it at making it the control column on our Excel spreadsheet. Now it's important to note that the control column can be any column. It doesn't have to be K, it could be G, it could be literally anything on the same spreadsheet. You just need to define which one it is when you're bringing it into costex. So yet again, let's close this down so that we can add it into our workbook. So I'm going to do the same thing again, bottom half of that add button there, and then import workbook from Excel. And then this time, obviously, bring across the one that's called import based on control column. This window pops up once again. I'm going to leave the name the same. I'm also going to delete the notes like I normally do. And then here you just need to make sure that your the sheet or the tab that you want to bring across is selected. And then this field here, which is one that we've neglected the last 2 times, we now need to put this information in because it's obviously very important. We're telling costex which control column to get the data from and how to sort the data. We're also letting costex know that it is a control column that they're actually looking for. So I'm going to go to my drop down here, and if you'll remember, my control column was actually K. So I'm going to select K there. I also need to define what the description column is, once again, so that costex knows how to sort the layout. And then import blank rows is fine. I'm going to leave that as is. And now I'm just going to press preview. I don't need to sort any of this information out. I'm literally just going to rely on my control column there for the structure. So I'm going to go to preview now. And as we can see, I've got my levels here. So it's telling me that on level 1, I'm going to have my heading. On level 2, I'm going to have my subheading. And then level 3, I'm going to have my items. Now that follows the same sequence all the way down. And it's also captured my extra columns there, so the ones with my codes in. So now I just need to assign what my columns are once again. So let's right click on here and this becomes the code. I then need to do my quantity, unit and rate. I'm going to leave my total, but these need to be assigned and I can actually rename the headings later. So if I right click, you'll see that I need to allocate it to one of the user columns. So I'm going to use that as user column 1, and then user column 2 and user column 3. And what we can also do, something to note here, is we can right click on this little box here and we can collapse all just to see exactly what level 1 would look like, or we can expand all to see the entire structure of the workbook. So once you're happy with that, you just press import, wait for it to load, and it will assign each column exactly to what I assigned it to, and it's created the structure that I told it to based on the control column. So I've got my headings here on level 1. If I go down, I can see that I've got my subheadings on level 2. It's also grabbed this information here, and then if I go down a further level, it's also got the same structure here. So whatever the level was represented in column K in my Excel spreadsheet, costex has worked out exactly what level to put it on, so that it's got the right information on the right level. Now, if I want to change my user column headings, because they obviously relate to certain bits of information now, I just need to go into my properties, go into column names, and I'm just going to adjust the names of these accordingly. So user 1 needs to be my trades, user 2 needs to be my element codes, and then user 3 needs to be ICMS. And then update, and now that makes more sense. When I go down further into the levels where this information is, I can see exactly what that relates to. So that concludes our ways of importing Excel spreadsheets into our workbooks. It does massively help if you have just started using costex and you want to bring all your information over. You don't need to start from scratch, adding a new workbook and actually developing the document again. You just have to bring it over just using the same methods that I showed you. So you just need to select which one's going to work best for you, and you need to make sure that your Excel spreadsheet is set up in a particular way, in the ways that I showed you, and then you use the appropriate method according to that. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you found it very useful. Please visit the rest of our YouTube channel page so you can take a look at all of the previous videos that we've completed, showing you tips and tricks on how best to use costex.